Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 6 of the anime series, Towaru Yakushi no Koyuta. This was definitely an interesting episode because it was ramping up somewhat, subtly the tensions of what's yet to come as Isla has finally reached that holy spring. You basically see as the episode opens, Kal-El and Claire in their plane, and they're just awed by the majesty of this entire sort of mythical place. I mean, it's really part of their mythology, their culture, and they've only just seen it for the very first time. Now, when we saw them approaching this in the last episode, they came under fire from a couple of planes. One apparently, we find out in this episode, was shot down, and they've taken captive the pilot. And there's a whole sort of, I guess you could say ominous and very burdening thing going on with the government of this particular floating continent, in that they've decided they would rather risk the trainees' lives in going up against, the entering of the spring and having to deal with the Sky Clan of protectors, the pilot protectors of this area. And it's just very interesting to see how that knowledge plays out, because it's heavily rumored all throughout this episode that there is a whole band of these Sky Clan pilots who are going to be protecting and fighting to keep people out of the Holy Spring area. And, that's where we're headed. That's very intriguing to me. I mean, apart from all the sort of comedic elements of this episode, you have the trainees operating a restaurant, and of course, you have Ariel, who is apparently like the queen chef in this whole cookery. She's basically making her own sort of recipe of ramen. They're calling them Ariman, in homage to her name, Ariel. And I just think it's absolutely hilarious that you have everybody just really working together. This is what they consider fun, putting on a show in a sense, making food for people, waiting on them, and showing that they have the skills and the unification to do this. And it's hilarious when we see, Claire is still very sort of skittish around Kal-El and what she has figured out about him and everything, and she drops a plate, and at one point Kal-El has to take over in the kitchen cooking duties, and he's horrible at it. Everybody else who tries is horrible at it. Ignacio comes walking in, and he's actually holding his own, getting the noodles and everything ready and perfected. But Ariel eventually comes back, and they switch Kal-El over to just sort of waiting on people, get him away from the food if possible. Because we see he'd rather be outside sitting on the back porch looking up at the stars and just thinking about the awe and wonder of the Holy Spring that they're very close to entering. And so I love that entire segment. I love when we see that the Admiral Luis character, the sort of caregiver of Claire, sneakingly comes in and meets the two instructors, Banderas, who he calls Gorilla. Apparently he has a long-time history with, and of course he's introduced to Sonia, and they are both sitting with him. And here's where, for me, the episode took a very intriguing and interesting turn. This is where it sort of really grabbed me by the lapels and kept me very intrigued. I like that this episode really took the focus somewhat away from Kal-El, Ariel, and Claire Cruz and all of that, and we started to focus on the sort of minor characters, Chiharu and Midi, most notably, because essentially we have Chiharu having heard that, one of their classmates had overheard rumors of this Sky Clan potentially attacking if they try to enter the Holy Spring, and she overhears the trio, the Admiral and the two instructors, talking about the worries of this and how the government has made this order that rather than, have professionally trained pilots go in and fend them off, why don't we send in the trainees and all this stuff? And we basically follow Chiharu and see that she is so scared. She's terrified that she almost makes a fool of herself in that she's, overly playing her appreciation for Midi and Midi's skills as a technician, sort of, his knowledge on planes as well as weaponry and stuff like that. She's thankful so much that he is her partner because she, assumes that he's going to be able to keep her alive, be able to make sure she doesn't die. And it's just terrifying that. It's like, you can only imagine what pilots going into World War II, knowing that they may not come home. It's that kind of mentality. Here are people who are really kind of civilians. I mean, they're trainees, they're young, and it's the young lives who always get sent off to war, and it's like, this is a brilliant commentary on that. It's almost that kind of feel in a very fantasy anime setting, but you're seeing the very real representation on that knowledge in Chiharu that something bad could happen, and I don't want to die. I'm so young. I have so much life ahead of me. And she's thoroughly, the only solace she has is taking Mitty's hand when they're sitting out on the swing set later. That just was so profound to me in that we're finally seeing it from the perspective of characters who aren't the central characters. And so this episode, for that reason, it had some laughs, and it had a heavy amount of drama and gravitas in the story that just pulled me in. And I can't wait to see how the series wraps up, how it all plays out. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 6 of Tuwaru Ikushi no Koyuta, if you've seen it. Otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you later. Peace.